Drawing typography, you must be thinking, but I am not a designer. Yes, you. You should practice drawing typography. Let me explain why. This video is structured so that you can draw along with me. In this video you see examples of typography. I hope you will join me and copy them to your sketchbook while this video explains that it is useful to do so as an artist. After this video, also look around for amazing typography and copy it to your sketchbook. For this video I walked around my city to take photos of typography. There is such an abundance of amazing, beautiful, well-designed type, old and modern. If you look around, especially shop banners tend to have exciting typography. I found that it seemed to be a general rule that everywhere where businesses were cramped together and each had little space, mostly text, that they tend to use exciting type to attract attention. You see this in the banners of shops, especially in busy streets, but also, for example, in bookstores where book covers have to compete for attention. Book covers often use strong expressive type for the titles. While searching around for interesting typography to study, I also noticed that the newspaper ads from around 100 years ago were packed together on a page, and so they used rich typography to attract attention also. They had a sense of glamour to them and are a pleasure to look at. I might do a video with these in the future also. These expressive fonts work for short texts. For longer texts, it is a good idea to choose a type for readability. These are great for practice also. I had to choose typography that was at least 100 years old, so that it was out of copyright, so that I can show them here in this video, and so that you can draw along with me using these for reference. But there are tons more modern examples of well-designed, exciting type all around us. Good places to look for them are store banners, logos, posters, book covers. Also, what they call display fonts tend to be more exciting and more suited for shorter texts. Also, try to dive into designing your own type after that. After all, we shouldn't forget that this is about having fun while drawing. Do you have your sketchbook ready? Great, let's begin. You probably know that as an artist, you need to practice what is known as fundamentals. Fundamentals are the basic skills you need for almost everything, and you practice them, of course. For figurative art, the fundamentals you might want to consider learning are things like live model drawing class, anatomy, perspective, drawing from observation, pen or brush control, composition, lighting, color theory. You maybe practice live model drawing because it trains you. You learn about human anatomy, you learn to see how different each individual is from the other, you learn how to capture expressive poses, you learn how to fit a pose on a page and how to not place the feet so that the model appears to be about to topple. You learn about hair suggestion, you learn about drawing lines accurately and with confidence, you learn about volume suggestion, you learn about light and shadow and how to use those to suggest volume with it. You learn how to control drawing tools, you learn how to draw small gesture drawings, and you learn how to draw large and use your elbow and shoulder for these large, sweeping, confident lines. Phew, that is a lot you learn from just figure drawing. But that is not all. You need to learn other fundamentals, like, for example, perspective and vanishing points. I think most artists consider this boring. I noticed that posts about perspective get less engagement, suggesting that people would rather not practice that if they had a choice. But it is important, even for drawing figures. People take up space in a real environment, and so you need to place their hands, feet, head, etc. correctly in perspective. Fundamentals are not always fun, but they are important if you want to be able to make great art in the future. They help you improve your craft, and with that they help you express yourself more accurately. Because there are three things to works of art. One, on the one side, you need to have something to say. You need to express something, say something about the thing you are drawing. That is one reason pure realism is boring. You are just copying something without saying anything about it. Congratulations, you show great skill, but the resulting image is like a photo. It's a bit boring. You didn't give us your opinion on it. 2. Craft. yes, craft is almost as important because it allows you to say what you want to say with precision and accuracy. If you don't have something to say, it is just craft, and then it becomes boring also. But if you can't say it accurately, no one will understand you. If you don't make your art with skill, no one will want to look at it. 3. You need to make sure the process is fun. It shows in your work when you were having fun with it. I hope you can tell that I am having fun making these videos, for example. You would be able to tell if I was just coloring by numbers. I remember once drawing together with my daughter on one piece of paper. Suddenly, we ended up in a sword fight with our pencils. That is when I realized that she was just enjoying the tactile experience. That was a moment when I learned from her. Incidentally, pay attention. You can learn from everyone. I am bound to learn from you if we interact one day. Let's do this thought experiment. You have a favorite band. What musical instruments do they play? Now, I don't play any music instruments, at least not seriously. So imagine if I played their musical instruments. Would you want to listen to that? It would probably sound terrible. Even though I put so much effort and emotion into it, even though I enjoyed doing it so much, and I probably would, you would probably not want to listen to it, preferring to listen to your favorite band instead. The same can go for writing. You would probably prefer to read a novel written by a writer who knows how to craft sentences and stories, who knows the rules of grammar, which is craft. Are you drawing along with me? Great. Craft is important, not just if you want to show your work to other people. It is just satisfying if you can express yourself accurately. I am probably going to go into deeper detail on these fundamentals in later videos. As an aside, please let me know in the comments which fundamentals you would like to learn about the most, and I will see what I can do. Fundamentals come in other art forms also. For music, it might be learning to read notes or practicing chords, tone letters. For writing, it might be grammar, practicing writing sentences that sing. For physics, I have a master's degree in physics. The fundamentals are a few math subjects, like linear algebra, for example. Linear algebra is relatively boring, but you need it for almost all types of calculations in physics, from relativity theory to quantum mechanics to solid-state physics. Because that is a common thing with fundamentals. They tend to be a bit boring, at least after a while, but they tend to help you practice a skill that you end up needing for almost everything you make. It is no good saying, I will learn it when I need it, because you will need it for almost every project, and it might take years for you to master it well. So you might as well start now, so you have it at your disposal when you need it. The problematic part of it is that practicing fundamentals tends to become boring after a while. You may notice this when drawing a box in perspective for yet another time. So you need to make it fun. You need to make sure you have fun with it. That same holds for drawing typography and hand lettering. Typography is a fundamental of design. You need to know about fonts in the first place to choose the right one for a text. You need to understand how a font feels and if it is the right font for that text. Was the font used in some famous text or poster? That might influence the feel it gives the viewer. Does the font match with the genre of text? For example, if you are showing a medieval text in a 70s font, that might be a bit strange. But that is not all. If you copy font, if you hand letter, you learn so much about design. You practice so much. It is like model drawing class, but for designers. With design, you have the following things you can work with. Contrast. Contrast can really make something interesting. You can be using two contrasting fonts, or the horizontal and vertical lines in your fonts might have contrasting weights, thicknesses. You can use that to make people notice something or make it visually more pleasing. Repetition. Obviously, letters repeat, but inside the letters you might have arcs or ends of shapes that repeat between different characters. This is actually more important than you think. This repetition makes it feel like a whole. For example, you can notice on this YouTube feed that I use black line art on white background, and that I use Vera Sans as a font and phthalo green and maybe a touch of orange or red here and there. If you go to my website, you will see the same. If you see my newsletter, you see the same. Repetition makes things feel like a whole. like they belong together. Because design is not about arbitrary choices. It is not about taste. Design is about deciding on that one singular thing you want to convey, that one thing you want to say, and to then choose a visual language that conveys that the best, and to repeat the elements as much as possible each time. Each choice must be deliberate. Each element must be there for a reason. I can't suddenly use some purple here and there on my website just because I like purple. It would look like a mess after a while if I kept making local choices like that. Think of the whole. The whole must feel unified. It must feel like one. Repeat elements wherever you can. It becomes a visual language that way. The elements become words that you repeat, like words in this text keep repeating also. The design must come together as a whole in such a way that every element says the same thing, communicates the same thing. Related to that is alignment. Letters are of course aligned as they are written along a line, but different rows of text are also aligned to an imaginary vertical line. And maybe you see some other elements on a page that are aligned to that same line also, or which are aligned to the texts or each other in some other way. Proximity. Letters are grouped together into words. Words are grouped together into paragraphs. Maybe there are other groups on the page, like titles or photos and such. This helps greatly in making something easier to understand as the eye wanders around. Also, you should take great care with what they call kerning, the space between the letters. Getting it right is an art, I feel. It is about the negative space between the letters and making them look good relative to each other. I hope you are having as much fun as I am having drawing these letters. Figurative artists can use all of these aspects in their own art too. Interestingly, if you start doing this typography hand lettering exercise, you will start to notice that professional lettering in, say, logos of large corporations are actually sometimes kerned wrong. I won't name names, but I saw surprising situations where, if you looked closer, you saw that the kerning was off in the text of some publication by some large corporation. Professional designers must have a terrible time walking the streets, seeing terrible typography choices or bad kerning everywhere. But you don't need to be a designer for that. You can often see if something is properly designed by a trained designer. If it is not, things are thrown together haphazardly, but if they are carefully designed, you will see everything aligned, shapes and other elements repeating. Are things grouped together in a meaningful way, so it all looks less messy and more designed? You will also notice beautiful, well thought through negative spaces. Practicing drawing typography, hand lettering, is like model drawing class, but for design. It will make you better at designing things. It will make you start to notice repeating shapes and curves, maybe in a face, and maybe you want to emphasize that. It will make you notice negative shapes also, the areas around objects. And you get to use it for texts in your sketchbook. You get to add beautiful lettering and combine it with your art. Also, you can do it whenever you are sitting somewhere where you see beautiful typography. Or maybe you see something or use some emotion that needs to be evoked and you try to design your own typography for that. You can do that anywhere, anytime. And here is where that having fun with it part comes into play, of course. You can also go further and design a handwriting style. Comics lettering is like that, or at least it used to be. These letters used to be drawn, not written. For example, I have a go-to lettering style to go with humorous drawings that don't need a lot of text. These are unsuited for serious text or situations where you need a lot of readable text, but for short humor, this lettering type is great. This approach mentioned above works for any craft you want to learn. The steps are always the same. You see something you admire and you want to also be able to create something like that yourself. You start, you notice that your attempts fall short. You compare your work to that of people who are already doing it well, and you find out which areas of your work need improvement. You find the fundamentals you need to practice, and you practice, but you also sometimes have fun with it and goof off, and hopefully you occasionally have great results to celebrate as a reward and motivation to keep going. It works like that with music. You study your favorite musicians, figure out where they have skills you lack, and you practice that, and occasionally, hopefully, you can carry a nice tune. And it works like that with writing. You fall in love with wonderful stories, beautiful sentences, and you try your hand at it, and you discover that your efforts fall short, and you study why the creations you admire so much work, and how they work and why they work, and you pick them apart and you find out where you need to improve. It works with these YouTube channels also, to be honest. I hope that my videos are getting better and better. Each time I post, I look at the video with a critical eye and I compare it to the videos by creators who have already been doing this for a long time. And I see they do their camera work different. I see I am doing my lighting wrong. Now, as you can see, it's more evenly and brightly lit. In the beginning, my hands would not be sharp, and because I have done lighting better, my hands are now always sharp. I figured out how to do scripting. I figured out how to do voiceover narration by doing it, comparing it to what experienced people do, seeing where I fall short, and trying to figure out what I need to do to improve that. There are other skills I'm learning: recording audio, editing video. They are all skills I find myself having to learn here, and I am having so much fun with it. I hope it shows, and I hope you have as much fun with drawing these letters, because that is another reason for doing this. You can make beautiful pages with just hand lettering. Indeed, some artists even specialize in that and just do hand lettering pages, book covers, posters, or just sketchbook pages. It can look good if you use hand lettering on shop windows or social media posts or anywhere you want to use them. You can find a link in the description to a pack of typography photos for you to practice with. These are the photos I took while walking around in Amsterdam, looking for typography that was around 100 years old or older. There are currently more than 140 samples, and I plan to add to it in the future as I walk around with my camera. On my website I have a collection of drawing exercises which are hopefully at least fun and which I found helped me greatly in improving my skills. They are fundamentals but done in a fun way. Boxes in any orientation are, for example, just perspective done in a fun way. And the results are hopefully beautiful sketchbook pages, just as I hope you now have a nice page in front of you with beautiful lettering. If so, celebrate and keep going, of course, keep having fun. Please also consider joining my newsletter to not miss any additions I made to my drawing exercises. I thank you for watching and listening.